Good afternoon everyone, and thank you for coming out to the Wright and Coombs Ballot Information Day. My name's Julia Fauna. I'm the Assistant Director, Sales, Marketing and Community Development for the Suburban Land Agency. What all those lovely long words mean is that I've had the privilege of being involved in the Wright and Coombs community pretty much since its inception, when we did our first sales way back in 2013. Yes. Anyone who's been to information nights out here before may have met me already. I'm just going to run through some basic housekeeping before we get started. Please don't all run out and do it now, but you may have noticed there's a sausage sizzle out in the car park. So if you're feeling a little bit peckish after you've listened to all our talks and asked all your questions, please pop by the Lions and support their cause on the way to the car. If in the unlikely event that we do have an emergency, we have emergency exits where you came in, but also at the other two corners of the hall. Follow the instructions of anyone in the Suburban Land Agency green top, and we'll make sure that you do get out safely. Pretty sure that's a low chance, but just in case. Just let you know who you will be hearing from today. So obviously myself, I'll be talking about the sales process, the ballot conditions and how to make sure you're registered correctly. We have Dave Thornhill, who is the Development Director for the Molonglo region. So he'll be talking about the wider Molonglo region and also the planning that's gone into developing these blocks and some of the specific rules that apply to them. And Jodie Gleeson, who is our Mingle Community Development Manager. She manages the program for Mingle across Canberra, but specifically for Wright and Coombs, where we've had a Mingle program running for about 4 years now. So I'll hand off to Dave first of all, and you'll hear from me again a little bit later.
Thank you, Julia. Okay, as Julia said, my name's David Thornhill and I'm the Development Manager for the Molonglo Valley region for the Suburban Land Agency. I'm going to talk to you for probably about 15 minutes this afternoon, give a little bit of an overview of Molonglo Valley, talk a little bit more in detail about Wright and Coombs, and then touch on the Housing Development Guide. So this slide that I have up here is a picture of the Molonglo Valley. Hopefully most of you kind of guys know where you are now. You're in the suburb of Coombs, which is kind of this part down here, and we're at the school down the bottom. This is the first area that was developed in the Molonglo Valley, and currently in this area here there's a population of about 5,000 people. When Molonglo Valley is fully developed, we're looking at a population in this area of around about 55,000 people. So you can kind of see at the moment we're in the kind of very early stages of the development of the valley. And that timeline for being development is around that 15 to 20 year program. Now, to put that in perspective of what that will look like when fully developed, we're talking about what half the size of Gungahlin is at the moment. So this Molonglo Valley region will be quite a large development footprint down here. If we look through as we go forward, you can see that the Molonglo area is covered with some quite natural areas around. We have the Molonglo Valley River Corridor that kind of goes through the middle. We have the National Arboretum on the right-hand side. We have Stromlo Forest Park down the bottom left, and up the top we have the Karma Nature Reserve. So that's a significant amount of open space area in here. The pink colours represent kind of the future development areas in the Molonglo Valley. So you can see the bottom part of Wright and Coombs is quite well developed now. Denman Prospect up in Molonglo 2 is under development now as well. And as if you kind of cross the Molonglo River, on the top part we have the future suburb of Whitlam on the left hand side. That will be released next financial year, the first dwelling sites in that. And then on the right hand side we have the future suburbs of Molonglo 3. So the Suburban Land Agency releases land in accordance with the government's 4-year land release program. And so at the moment that's identified kind of releases in all of these suburbs that I've just mentioned of Wright and Coombs, Denman Prospect and Whitlam. It's also identified the first release in the Molonglo Commercial Centre, which is kind of in the middle of this map where that east-west arterial road goes. So that's going to be the major commercial centre for the region. The first release in that is in about 3 years' time, but then it'll take a couple of years before that actually gets up and becoming like a mini kind of group centre, town centre. While I'm on this map, I'll just talk quickly about some of the major capital works that are proposed. The first one mainly is the John Gorton Drive extension. So as you can see now, you've got John Gorton Drive that kind of finishes about a couple of 100 metres up the road from where we are, and then goes back into the old road and then goes down over Coplan's Crossing. And then as you come up the other side, they've just started to do some work up around William Hobble Drive for the intersection as it comes in. So there is a program and some timing for when the bridge going over the Molonglo River will be. That's around 2021-22 for when those works are expected to be completed. So they're going through the final procurement, design and tendering, and then a construction process for that. Then there's the east-west arterial road that is proposed to go and connect into the Tuggeranong Parkway. And the government's just got some money at the moment just for the first feasibility funding to determine the alignment and the feasibility of doing that road. But today, I'm just going to concentrate a little bit more on Wright and Coombs. So that's that area in the little black circle. And this is it kind of in a bit larger context. So if we look at Coombs, which is the one on the right-hand side, it's surrounded by John Gorton Drive, the major arterial road going down through the middle. And on the right-hand side is the Molonglo Valley River Corridor. As you turn into this development, if you were coming in off John Gorton Drive, you'll be going past a variety of multi-unit sites. These are kind of the same type of density as what we have in the existing part of Coombs, where it's a minimum of 3-storey height, possibly up to 6 stories, and the dwellings in that thing will be quite a high density. As you go past those ones there, you kind of go into the more traditional standards single residential blocks, which is like what we have around here, and that's what we have on the market with this ballot process through there. One of the things that this area here will have that's a little bit unique, will have its own kind of couple of dedicated play spaces. So that's this one kind of in between the bottom area, between those two multi-unit sites. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit more. Plus there'll be a whole lot of access points kind of in and around that pond and into the Molonglo Valley River Corridor. We're doing a lot of extensive tree plantings in this area here to kind of enhance the amenity around there. We're doing over 100 tree species, 100 trees being planted along the river corridor, with over 450 actually in the development. So if we look at Wright then on the other side, again, it's got John Gorton Drive on the right-hand side. You've got the suburb of Denman Prospect to the north, and kind of where the Wright logo is the Stromlo Forest Park development. Access into Wright is a little bit different from Coombs, as the access is off that Opperman Avenue. So you've got no direct access into this part of Wright off John Gorton Drive. A little bit different here in Wright than in Coombs. There's 2 community facility sites. There's this large one down the bottom, which is identified for a non-government school, and that's going to be released in 2018-19. And then there's another community facility site up the middle of the development, which at the moment hasn't been programmed for release, but it will have all uses that are under the territory plan for community uses site. Again, the multi-unit sites on John Gorton Drive will be a minimum of 3 stories. We also have in the market at the moment a number of the multi-unit sites in the Coombs and Wright. It's that big triangle block in Coombs, and then the 3 development sites on the other side. Sorry, the triangle block in Wright and the 3 other sites in Coombs on the other side of the road. Another thing about Wright that I should probably touch on, which is a little bit different from some of our other developments, we've got this street that we've termed an active travel street. So the principle of this street is to be a low-speed environment, and the idea is to make it a little bit safer for walking and cycling, while also providing the vehicular access to homes. So this is Road 7, which is the closest intersection, to the left-hand side as it goes up to the open space area up the top. So what this means is kind of the pavement treatments and some visual cues on signage will be kind of sending the message to the road user in the car that this area is being designed to have a little bit more activity of pedestrians and cyclists on the road. So obviously cars are still going to be able to travel along this because access to the house is on there, but there'll be different pavement treatments and signage to allow people to be more active in the area. And why we've picked that street there is it connects to the open space area up the top and also down to the open space area down the bottom. So it's kind of more an active travel where people will be able to freely move between the suburb. Another thing that I'll quickly touch on is probably the bus services. The Molonglo Valley is quite lucky at the moment. They've already got the frequent bus travel network up John Gorton Drive. The bus stops are proposed to be along John Gorton Drive, and so that's a 15-minute high-frequency bus service. All these blocks here would close walking distance to those areas, so they'll have quite easy access to get onto the bus services. Schools. So there's no school proposed in this little part of Wright & Coombs, but there are already, there's no primary school, no, I'll start that one again. The primary school for Coombs is in the existing part of Coombs, and we're in that now. And the big blob here is the non-government school, which is proposed to be released at the moment in next year. So current schooling is in the Coombs school, with the current high schooling is at Stromlo High. There's a number of schools that are in the future planning stage, as well as this one here. There's 2 in Denman Prospect, 1 across the road in Whitlam, and also some possible education facilities in the Molonglo Commercial Centre. Local shopping for the area. So, like I said, this is 5,000 people living in Coombs and the Molonglo Valley at the moment, 50,000 ultimate population. So, services are progressively released as the population kind of increases. At the moment, there's shops under construction in Coombs and Wright and Denman Prospect, and there's a service station and fast food operations also under construction. So when these things come online, they'll provide the local shopping for these residents and the existing residents. And then in the 3 to 4 years when the Molonglo Commercial Centre comes online, that will provide some more of the larger bulk scale shopping facilities for people. Other services in the area that are quite close by, there's childcare facilities and there's also a gymnasium and some fast food operations. But I think probably 2 of the main draw cards for this area would be the Molonglo Valley River Corridor, which is kind of in the Coombs development. So that's a 1,200 hectare open space, high conservation area nature reserve. So that stretches all the way from Scrivener Dam down to the Murrumbidgee River. In this there's walking tracks and hiking tracks, and there's a whole lot of recreation activities you can get out and do in that. And then over on the right side, what is really appealing about the right development is the Stromlo Forest Park. So that's a world-class recreation sporting facility. There's a number of bike tracks, mountain bike tracks, hiking tracks and running tracks in there. And the government's recently committed $36 million to building a 50-metre swimming pool, gymnasium and splash park in that area. So that's kind of down in this bottom corner. The timing for that is around 2020 when that's proposed to be opened. So this here is a picture of Coombs and Wright, with Wright being in the foreground, with civil works under construction. We started our construction works late last year, and this was taken early this year, and you can see kind of what we've caught here is this bulk earthworks are kind of underway. What our current date range of when we can finish these blocks of works and have them able to be settled by you people out here is we're thinking that Wright will be finished between March and November next year, and Coombs will be finished between December and June this year. So when our works have completed, we do all the civil works, we do all the filling that's required for the blocks, we do all the earthworks, all the roads, all the grading, the street tree plantings, the grassing of the verges and the nature strips, and we also do the driveway construction from the road to the property boundary. We do all of that work, and they will be finished within those time dates up there. You're then informed of this being the case, and then that's when you need to settle on your blocks of land. This is an artist's impression of one of the play spaces that we have up at Coombs. So we've taken a little bit of feedback on board from some previous survey results that we've done about including some different play equipment in some of the open space areas. This one's a bit more for the junior kids with slides, some playground swings, some balancing beams, and some climbing walls and a little bit of open space play area. But one of the main things we've done here as well, we've included a variety of seating locations and some shade sales requirements. Because we've heard some feedback that we've put some shade over some equipment, but not all of it, and some seating in certain locations, but not all of it. So a high lot of detail and work has gone into these ones here. what we've also done is we've packaged up our landscaping construction works with our civil works. So this means that when you start to build your home in here, that these playgrounds will be under construction or will be nearly developed. So by the time you move into your home, the play spaces and all there will be ready to be used. This is one in Wright. So this one's a little bit more at the older play space for the children. This one has a rebound wall and a half-size tennis court, as well as the shade sail seating locations, climbing equipment, and also a bocce court. There's not as much open space kind of kick around area in this one, but in another open space area in Wright we have that with some outdoor ping pong tables and also some outdoor cricket nets. Okay, I'll touch briefly on the Housing Development Guide. So the Housing Development Guide is on the little USB stick that's in your take-home bag today. I can't recommend enough how important it is to actually have a read of this document. You will have many questions today and over the next couple of weeks as you do your research, and you will find all of the answers on that Housing Development Guide, or it will direct you to where you can find those answers if you have any questions about the blocks that you're looking at. So that's what the Housing Development Guide would look like on the right-hand side if you printed it out and had a look at it. You probably don't need to print out the whole guide, you could probably read it on the screen, but I recommend the blocks of land that you're interested in, print out a couple of pages that relate to that. It's divided into a number of sections, the first section being standard servicing conditions and advice, and then a section on the block-specific requirements and some drawings, and I'll just go through them quickly. So the standard servicing conditions, this is kind of what's related to every block that the Suburban Land Agency sells, kind of regardless of where it is located. This covers stuff about water, gas, telecommunications, garbage and postal. So how do I get the garbage collected from my new house? What is my postal address? How do I connect them to the services here? This is where you'll find that information. Environment protection. So there's a certain obligations for you once you actually own your block of land in relation to sediment control, waste and turf supplies. There's certain areas of Australia where you cannot get turf supplied from. You need to be aware of all of this stuff, and then more information is in there. It's not overly complex, you don't need to know it in detail, but you just need to have that understanding of, oh wait a minute, maybe I might find some more information in the housing guide. And then there's a bit more stuff on nature strips, driveways, geotech, drainage and a few other things in relation to site conditions. Then there's the stuff that's related to these blocks in Coombs and Wright. The first thing in this area is a block schedule. This is a document that kind of lists all the blocks that are in Wright and Coombs and all the different requirements that each one of these blocks have. So it's pretty much got a yes and no against all of the blocks in probably these categories here. So is my block subject to cat containment? No. Does my block have special lighting controls? Does my block have an easement on it? No. Does my block have bushfire protection measures? There's a few little things that you need to know when you're doing your due diligence to find out which ones suit your purposes a little bit more. Then there's the drawings. Everyone seems to quickly go to the drawings because that's where most of the information is. These drawings are trying to articulate what's just been said in the narrative before. So the most important thing to read on this drawing is the legend. So the legend on here tells you what's actually on the drawing. So as you can see, there's a lot of information that's been trying to convey on that drawing. You've got your block areas, your block dimensions, where your driveway is going to be located. Is it on the left-hand side or the right-hand side of the property? Is there a footpath out the front of my property? What's next door to my property? Is there a street tree out the front of my property? Is there going to be a street light out the front of my property? Do I have an easement on my block? Are there any conditions with that easement? Do I have to have any type of fencing controls on my block? Is there any bushfire protection measures? So all of these things are located on that block details plan. And the other major thing on the block details plan are the contour lines. So they're all the squiggly lines that go through the drawing. And if you look down on the legend, it says that the contour lines are in 1 metre increments. So what that means is there's 1 metre between each one of those lines. So if you look at block 7, for example, and we'll go through that, you will see in the middle up the top there's a 57. That's the section number of this area. Then there's 7, which is enlarged 7, so it's block 7, section 57. You then have the area, which is 598 metres square. You then around the side of the block there's a little number that says that's how long and that's how wide the block is. You look down, you can see that this block has a driveway on the left-hand side of the block, and it also has a street light out the front of this block. There's also a little symbol there that says there's a bushfire protection measures. So these things here, you go across to the legend and it will refer you to where in the Housing Development Guide you need to actually find out more information. So you then look at the squiggly lines and you kind of go, so there's a metre between each one of those lines. There's a line that comes down on the bottom left, there's one that goes to the middle, and there's one that goes to the top. So you kind of go, so that's 1, 2. So there's 2 metres fall or rise on that block. So you then kind of go, well, how do I know whether the block is falling away from me or rising? You follow that line down until you find a number. It'll say 650, and then you go to the next number and it'll say 651. And so you'll go, oh, so that's increasing. So you'll then look at the bottom, it says it's 650, next one 651, 652. So you'll be able to look at that block and say, so that block there has a driveway on the left-hand side, it rises up 2 metres away from me, there's some bushfire protection measures, and I'm going to have a street light out the front. Does that block suit your needs for what house that you're wanting to buy? Yes, no, mark it as a possible option. Do that due diligence on every one of the blocks that you're interested in, so you'll come up with your list of what blocks you'll be interested in. So there's a couple of us here today from my team, myself, Cougar and Katrina. We'll be here after the presentation. If you have any more questions to kind of go through in relation to the Housing Development Guide or in more general Wright and Coombs. And yeah, best of luck.
Thank you, David. Okay, I'm going to talk about the ballot process. There'll be a few things that I'll repeat a couple of times. I'm repeating them because they're important. First of all, as David said, there's 194 blocks available in this ballot. 71 of those are located in Coombs and the other 123 in Wright. And every one of those is in the Housing Guide, and more importantly, the information about everything Dave said and everything I'm going to say is in the USB in the pen. So make sure you've done your due diligence in relation to that. You can only purchase one block of this release. That's why we run a ballot. I'd love to say that everyone in Canberra is very fair and equitable and only wants one of everything and likes to share, but we all know that's not true. So there are a number of rules that we've had to instigate, and we've learned over the years which ones are important to make sure this is as fair a process as possible. There are a number of key dates that relate to this. I'm going to talk in a little bit more detail about each of these, but I'll just run through it quickly now. Registrations open tomorrow on Monday at 10 a.m. Monday, but they run right through until the 9th of April. It doesn't matter when you register. Whether you register at 10 a.m. on Monday or at 3 o'clock on the 9th of April, you'll have exactly the same chance in terms of getting through to the ballot. What does matter is that you get your registration right. We hold the ballot draw on the 11th of April, and then on the 13th of April we'll email out the results of that ballot draw. You're asked to RSVP after that, so you have about a week and a half to get back to us and confirm that you're still interested. And then once we've got those RSVPs in, we'll check for related parties. So effectively we'll check for people who are being a little bit cheeky and trying to double dip. We issue appointments on the 14th of May, and block selection runs from the 19th to the 21st of May unless all the blocks are sold sooner. For the registrations, as I said, they open at 10 a.m. on Monday and close at 4 p.m. on Monday the 9th of April. It's an online registration process. You go to our website, which is www.suburbanland.act.gov.au, or for those of you like me that really struggle to spell suburban, there's a link through in your documentation that you'll have on your USB. Now this next point is really important. All the names of anyone that you need on your Crown lease need to be on the same registration form. When you're looking at purchasing a block, you might think, it's fine, I'll do it myself, and then, you know, later on I can sort out whether or not I need my partner on there or if I need my company on there or whatever. There is no opportunity to change that. The names that go on your initial registration form are the names that we will use all the way through the process through to creating your lease. So if, when you talk to your bank and they say you'll need both incomes on there to get the loan, make sure both names are on there, because we won't change that, we can't change that, it's against the ballot rules. It has caused people significant distress in the past because they've only put one person on there and the bank has refused to give them a loan. The other thing is if you have a company, you can either register the company or yourself. You can't register both, and you need to decide that before you register. If we find out that you have registered the company and yourself separately, or if we find out that you and your partner have registered separately, you will both be removed from the ballot process. We won't give you a choice, we won't say which one do you want, you're just out. The other important thing is that all details must match your photo ID. Not that I'm suggesting anyone in this room might try this, but in the past we have had some cheeky people who've put themselves down with their address, and then they've gone, well, you know what? My wife's, she used to live with her mum, so I'll use mum's address and we'll get her a second entry. When you turn up at block selection and your ID doesn't match the ID that you registered with, we won't let you in the room. We need you to be honest, and as long as you're honest, you're fine. You go through the process, you sign your contract, your bank gives you a loan, and everyone's happy. But if we have any reason to believe that you have tried to manipulate the system, we will remove you from the process so that we can be fair to the people who are doing the right thing. Once you've registered, you should get an email almost immediately. We do know that our system, because it's an auto mailer, gets caught in junk mail sometimes, so check your junk mail. But if within a half hour of when you've registered you haven't received an email, give us a call and we can check. We always encourage you to do things immediately. If you register and within half an hour notice you haven't got an email, call us then. Don't wait until 3:55 on Monday the 9th, because you'll probably be in a very long line of phone calls for all the other people who've left it till then. And if we don't fix it before 4, you're not in the ballot. You are responsible for checking your own details, you're responsible for checking your emails, you're responsible for making sure that you've done what you need to do to proceed through this process. So, as I said, we're here to help, and we also have Civium, who are our appointed sales agents, who are available for any questions you might have as well. We would rather you rang us and harassed us with 20 questions throughout the process than missed out because you didn't ask the question or left it too late. The ballot draw takes place on the 11th of April. That's a supervised electronic random draw. We actually worked with ACT Gaming and Racing to prepare a random number generator that gives you an order. So when you register for the ballot, you'll get a ballot ID number. I think at this stage they start with 10,000, so you might be 10,102. That number only matters as an identifier. It has no reference on where you are in the ballot draw. The results of this draw on the 11th will do that. So you might come out in the ballot draw number 1, you might come out in the ballot draw number 300. That's your ranking, and we'll email that out to you on the 13th of April. Your next responsibility there is to RSVP if you still want to stay in the process. We know that there will be people who will register and then go and talk to a bank or a builder or buy a house somewhere else or whatever, and won't need to go through the rest of the process, so they'll just naturally drop out. We work on the assumption that if you still want to be in part of the process, you will still be engaged with the process, and so you will reply to the emails we send. The draw is witnessed by both ACT Gaming and Racing. It's actually the same people who witness the lotto draws, so they're very good at watching balls come out in a random order. And then Griffin Legal, who are our appointed legal firm for this release. As I said, when you get the email on the 13th of April, make sure you RSVP. We do give you a little bit of time to RSVP, but if you haven't RSVP'd by the closing date, you won't proceed to the next process, you just drop off the list. The other hurdle that you need to pass is the related party checking, which takes place after that. So Griffin Legal are going to undertake that checking for us, and this is the point where we try and catch those cheeky people who have tried to manipulate the system. So we will run company checks on every company that has registered for the release. We will be looking for people who live at the same address, we will be looking for people who use the same email address, we will be checking dates of birth. So there are a whole lot of different things that we check for you. I'm not going to tell you everything we check because it's too easy for you to work out how to cheat. But just be assured that it is a long and painful process, to be honest. that allows us to catch a fair proportion of the people who have actually attempted to manipulate the system. Your obligation in that process is if Griffin Legal contact you and say that they have a concern with your entry, respond within 48 hours. Because once again, if you don't get back to us, we're going to assume it's because you're embarrassed you've been caught, and we're going to remove you from the process. We understand that there will be circumstances, for example, siblings who live in the same house, so they have the same surname and the same address, but we will be contacting those people and asking them to confirm that in a statutory declaration. If you lie in a statutory declaration, I suggest you talk to your lawyer about the consequences. Not good. Once we have done the related party check and email out an appointment for you, that appointment time is your time. Don't have an appointment at 10 o'clock and then rock up at 2 o'clock and say, I missed it, can I pick now? No. Your session is your session. The sessions will be run in the order of the ballot draw, so there will be more than one person invited to each session, but we also know that not everyone will turn up for various reasons. They may, once again, have spoken to a builder and decided not to work. The blocks that they were interested may have sold in the first session and they don't come to the second session. So we will invite well over 194 people for appointments. Don't panic if you're number 300. It is still highly likely that you'll be invited to select a block. So check your appointment time, make sure that you can make it, and at that point, make sure you've finished your research. You've talked to your bank, you've talked to your builder, you've talked to your partner or your company structure, and be sure that you want to actually commit to this. At the block selection appointment, we need you to attend and anyone else that you need on that contract. So if you have a partner or a company secretary or somebody else who's required to sign legal documents, they need to be there. If they are unable to make it, or for example, if you're both unable to make it, there is an appointment of agent form you can complete, which allows you to appoint somebody else to sign that contract on your behalf. But you need to get onto that early. Don't wait until the day and turn up with a form that's half complete and go, oh, is this still okay? Have a chat to Civium, they'll be able to talk you through the form and make sure that you bring all the right forms of ID with you. We do need proof of identification that includes your address, and as I said, we'll be checking that against your registration form. There are very few circumstances where we will accept a change of address. We understand it's a long process from registration to block selection, and some people may have genuinely moved or had a change in circumstances, but we'll need evidence of that. So if you used to live at one address, your lease has run out and you've moved to another address, we'll need to see proof of the first address and a new rental agreement that is dated during that middle period that is for the new address. So we really will be checking this for you. Please make sure that you do a list of all the blocks you're interested in. Right up until this point, you're under no obligation. If you make a list and there's only 20 blocks in this release that you were interested in and they're all sold before your appointment, you don't have to come. We're not holding you to anything. We don't have any money. If you decide that there's nothing left you want, that's fine. But what we don't want is for you to turn up on the day not having done any research and buy something that really isn't suitable for your purchases because you're panicking. Do your due diligence, make a list, and if that list is 1 to 194 because you're happy with any of these blocks in the release, do that. Because at least then when it's your turn to pick, you know that you're picking the next best block for you. You will be exchanging contracts the same day, and the block selection this time is held on a weekend, so the banks aren't open. You don't get to leave to go and get a bank check. You can't ring your bank to move funds around. If you haven't talked to your bank about your daily limit on your credit card, there will probably be no one there to help you. So make sure that during the week leading up to the block selection appointment, you've talked to your bank about how you're going to be in a position to pay that money. Because the contract isn't exchanged until you've paid, and if you're unable to pay, there will be other people in the room that want that block, and we will put it back on the market. So once again, I can't stress this enough, do your due diligence, make sure you've organised everything you need to organise. We do have people who ask if they're looking at a block in a price range, what should they do in terms of bringing a bank cheque? You have two options. You can either bring a bank cheque for the 5% of the cheapest block you're looking at and then top us up with another form of payment, either a credit card or another cheque, or you can bring it for the most expensive block you're looking at and we can arrange for a refund of the difference. It does take about a week to process, but we'll get that money back to you as quickly as we can. Okay, after block selection. So, as Dave said, they're building these blocks now. There will be somewhere between probably 8 and 12 months before you're ready to settle. So, just before the land's finished, when Dave's just getting all his final checks done, Griffin Legal will write out to you and they'll confirm that we've got all your details correctly. Then we'll produce the Crown leases, and once we have operational acceptance on the blocks, we'll issue those leases to you or your solicitor. That's the point at which you need to start having your final conversations with your bank. You have 30 working days to settle, and it seems like a really long time, till the bank starts saying, you didn't complete the form correctly. Oh, that person was on leave. Oh, yeah, it has to go to our Sydney office. We know from experience it takes about 6 weeks for banks to process these, so we suggest you start it immediately, because if you aren't in a position to settle when we ask you to settle, you're actually in breach of the contract, and there are penalties related to that. There is conveyancing duty, which used to be known as stamp duty, payable on these blocks, but in October last year the ACT government changed how that was payable. It used to be payable within 3 months of picking your block. It's now not payable until after you've settled. So it's a slightly different process, a little bit easier for you guys, because obviously it's the end of the process. It's not tying up the funds while you're waiting for us to build. But if you have any questions in relation to that, we have a lovely lady here from Revenue who can help you with that process. Sorry, I've gone too far. After settlement, there are a few things that you should be aware of. One of them is fencing the block. From the day you pay us, that block is yours. You have responsibility for the block, and we actually can't enter it anymore. We'd be trespassing if we did. We know that some builders are more careful than others about how they dispose of their rubbish and their soil and spill as they're building homes. We really strongly suggest that you get your block fenced if you're not building straight away. Just a temp fence, you can hire them through a number of companies in the ACT, but it ensures that you're not having to pay thousands of dollars potentially in tip fees because the builder next door has just dumped everything on your block. It's one we get a lot of people ringing up and saying, can you clean our block? We can't, it's not our block, it's your block from when you pay for it. And then the other really important thing to do, and my cue to hand over to Jodie, is to get involved with our Mingle program. It's a community development program we're running in all our new estates, but you guys have got the advantage of the fact that in Wright and Coombs it's actually been up and running for about 3 years now, so it's really well established. So I'm going to hand over to Jodie Gleeson to talk a little bit more about that.
Hi everyone, as Julia mentioned, we've been running the Mingle Community Development Program for a couple of years in Wright and Coombs. This is an initiative of the Suburban Land Agency, and it's all about connecting neighbours and local community together over shared interests and passions, and we also have a volunteer program as well. We're proud to partner with Communities at Work in Wright and Coombs, which will soon become North Wright and North Coombs, hopefully your new community. And Communities at Work are here today doing some craft activities, but also are happy to answer questions about the local community. Some activities that we have been doing certainly this year is we refurbished the Stromlo Cottage Heritage Project, which is just down the bottom of Coombs, and that is actually a Mingle community facility for 3 years. So in the last month alone, we've had resident meetings, a book club, we've had gardening groups start and have an interest, and we also have a seniors group running. So I really encourage you to come and ask questions about how you might like to be involved in your community, because ultimately we'd love to have you part of this new residential area. I just have a short video to show you as well, but if anybody is interested in finding out more after today, we have a chocolate picnic tomorrow for National Neighbour Day down at Stromlo Cottage, just at the bottom of Coombs, and you're welcome to come and find out and meet some of your possible future neighbours. And here's a little video for you, and we'll be here for the rest of the day to answer questions.
The foundation for any great neighbourhood is community. And the ACT Government is committed to creating a vibrant, strong and sustainable community throughout the Molonglo Valley. How? With our Community Development Program, Mingle.
Thank you, Jody. So I'm just going to run through a few things in terms of next steps. Definitely speak to your bank, speak to your financial advisor, get an idea of what your budget is, because as I said, once you sign your contract, you're in a legally binding arrangement. It's too late then to find out that you either can't afford the loan or that you can afford the land but can't afford to build. So make sure you're having those conversations now. Make sure that you read the sales pack. Everything we've spoken about today is in here. It's here to help you, particularly the Housing Development Guide, which will help you decide which blocks are suitable for your dream home. We strongly We strongly recommend that you speak to a solicitor. I've worked in this team for about 12 years now, and a couple of years ago I bought an established home. I used a solicitor. It is worth every cent. There are a number of things that you have to do within certain deadlines, or there are fees that apply. There's a lot of paperwork that needs to be lodged in various places around town. The amount that you will pay a conveyancing solicitor is more than worth it when you look at the cost of getting that wrong. Speak to a builder or an architect, or both, about what you want to build and what kind of block is suitable for that home. There are blocks in this release that have a significant amount of slope in them, and therefore if you're looking at building an adaptable home and you need it to all be on one level, they're not going to be suitable. But unless you're a builder or an architect, it's not a decision you can really make for yourself. Talk to the experts, they're there for a reason. Key dates again, so registration's open. Make sure that you register with the right details within that window. Ballot draw on the 11th of April, and check your email on the 13th of April for the results. Make sure that you RSVP to stay in the process. When you get, or if you get a phone call from Griffin Legal sometime from the 30th of April, make sure you reply to that. Check your email again on the 14th of May, and then with a bit of luck we'll see you all somewhere between the 19th and the 21st of May to select a block. And finally, I'll just let you know who's located where around the room for further questions. So Dave and his team are at the back, surprisingly, with all the maps. They can talk to you about the Housing Development Guide and technical advice in relation to North Ryde or North Coombs. City and Property also are very familiar with these blocks, but also the ballot process. So if you've got any questions about forms or what you need to fill in or when to do what, have a chat to them. ACT Revenue is the second table in from the door. The lovely lady there will be able to talk to you about conveyancing duty. Education Directorate, easy to find, bright purple public school sign. They'll be able to talk to you about education options in the region. Jody and the community development team over here with the bright Mingle flags. And of course, last but certainly not least, our friends from the Environment Planning Sustainable Development Directorate, who look after the territory plan and also development and building approval. So they're the gentlemen that you need to talk to if you've got any questions about, how long do I have to build, what's the approval process, when do I need to lodge plans, that kind of thing. So thank you very much for your time today. We will all be here to answer questions for the next couple of hours, so feel free to find the appropriate person to answer. And of course, don't forget to visit Lions on the way out. Thank you. Bye.